So this is day 2 of the 3-day guide. And we've talked already about why these foods are causing you to go down the path of eating more and more amidst the fact that they're such low in nutrients. But let's talk about what we can actually increase and replace / substitute in order to step away from this fully without it feeling like it's a restrictive approach. Because if we have this restrictive approach or we feel that way around cutting these foods out, ultimately we are going to go back to these foods. And my goal is not to say that you can never eat these foods again, but at some point you will realize that you don't even want these foods, but you're just in this constant cycle. And so now that we've taken some time to address the awareness around it and understand why these foods aren't the best options, let's talk about how we can actually start implementing the quality foods. So first and foremost, we need to take a look at where their protein intake is. And protein is super important because it has a satiating effect on your body, which essentially means that when you eat a lot of protein, your blood sugar levels are going to be very consistently steady. And that is making it much, much easier for you to regulate whether or not you're actually hungry. And also due to the fact that the protein is not going to have that sugar in there with it, you're going to be able to, again, think rationally, not have all this anxiety around the brain, and actually know what are the best options for you and your goals. And so if we can just slowly but surely increase our protein, we're going to realize that we're not getting cravings for these foods, and we're actually pretty full, so we don't have a ton of the appetite left. Now, another benefit to this is because as a byproduct our carbohydrates and those sugars are naturally going to decrease as we bring our food from the protein source up, we are also going to drop a lot of water weight. And so after doing this, your body is going to deplete through the water. And let me just quickly break this down for you. Every single time you eat a gram of carbohydrate, it also has to bond with water. So each carbohydrate you give your body, water is also being stored in there. And with protein, that's just not the case, which is a benefit because you're going to drop that water weight. So that's something that's tangible, visible, you can see in the mirror. But also because you're giving your body adequate protein, it's going to give you that satiety effect where you feel super full. You don't even feel like eating these foods. So you have your appetite really locked in. You don't feel like you're super hungry, and you're dropping water weight. And in addition, you're not getting all that sugar around your brain and in your bloodstream. And so because of that, you're going to be able to make more rational decisions, which is a plus. And when you don't have all this excess carbohydrate in your bloodstream, which again breaks down to sugar in your body, well, our body still needs that fast energy source. So the next thing it's going to go to for energy, if it doesn't have sugar, is the stored up glycogen, which is essentially that sugar that is stacked up from all these times of eating inside your bloodstream. And that is stored in adipose tissue, which is body fat. So now that we've trained our body to eat less and less of the sugar, eventually it's going to get to a point where it's depleted. It doesn't have sugar left in the bloodstream or enough to be able to give you sustained energy throughout the day and the week. And so it's going to start tapping into body fat stores. Now, if you've heard of ketosis or going into, the keto diet, it's very similar, except the main difference is when you're on keto, you basically have little or no carbohydrates left. And this is what your body's doing. It's dropping water weight, it's tapping into fat stores. Now, that's not to say we need to go that extreme, and that's not what I'm recommending here. But what I am saying is that, as we bring that protein up, naturally the carbohydrates are going to decrease a lot. And because of that, your body is going to still want to burn the same amount of calories and give you the same amount of energy. And so it's going to have to start tapping into fat stores. And that's the nice thing, because now you're going to notice within 2 to 4 days that you're a lot leaner, and you're going to start feeling like you actually have regulation and control over, what you're eating. So what foods can we use to start increasing that protein and make sure that carbohydrates are not, all over the place and blood sugar levels aren't stable? Now, anything that's a lean protein source is going to be your best bet, because the more protein and the less of the other, macros in there, the easier it's going to be to regulate. Now, it's not to say that, fatty meats or protein that also has fat in there is bad, but if you could choose one or the other, ideally, the leaner protein sources are best for building muscle. And so you're going to fuel new muscle growth just by getting your protein source up and get just the intake up. right? So this could be, red meat, chicken, fish, steak, eggs, any whole food source is going to be your best bet. Now, I would not say this is a bad option, but I would advise slightly against, the processed foods. For example, if you're drinking the protein shakes, protein bars, and packaged protein options, although they do have the protein in there, oftentimes, like I mentioned yesterday, we are going to also get the sucralose added sugars. Even if it says no sugar added, there are going to be things in there that make you want and crave more of that sugar. Because think about it, how do these things taste sweet if there's no sugar in there? Well, they're going to put a sweetener or something similar that, again, is just going to trigger your body to want more and more of that sugar. And essentially how it works is there's this flip in our brain, right, where when you have all this sugar, that flip switch gets turned off, and it's very challenging for your brain to regulate if it's actually hungry. So if we can decrease the amount of sugar in the bloodstream by bringing protein up, then we're going to be able to keep that switch on. We're going to be able to actually monitor if we want the food or not. And so when you find what you prefer best, you can start eating more of those foods. And now that's not to say you can't have carbohydrates, but if you focus on getting that in first, so okay, first and foremost, what I need to focus on for today is hitting my protein intake. Once I do that, I'm going to have much less of an appetite for all this junk food, and the cravings are going to be at bay because I have adequate nutrients. So this could be as simple as waking up in the morning time, aiming for first meal of the day is all protein. Maybe you have carbs after you eat the protein, right? But ideally, eat the protein first, and then afterwards see, okay, do I actually want the carbohydrates? Oftentimes, we're going to notice that we didn't actually want the carbohydrates, and now that we're full, we're not hungry for them. It was just our brain that was looking for that quick sugar, right? And so the energy is not always going to break down immediately when it comes to the protein or the fat sources. Carbohydrates break down rapidly, but the protein is going to allow you, to have more of that regulation and that steady blood sugar. So after 30 minutes, an hour after your meal, you're going to notice, okay, it's a lot less likely that I want to choose that option. So aiming for your lean meats is your best bet. But if you don't have a lean meat option, eat a fattier meat, eat, a fish that has the fat and the protein in there, because again, it's cutting you back naturally on these carbohydrates. Now, once you've gotten your protein in, and I would recommend about 0.7 to a gram. Ideally, the easiest way to do it is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's what a lot of research shows. But what I'll say is start eating, just being mindful of what you're eating when it comes to protein. Maybe day one, you're eating 100 grams, and okay, let's get that again tomorrow. You're going to notice after a couple of days that you actually crave more protein, you feel hungrier, right? And now we're gradually increasing protein about 5 to 10 grams per day. So you're just eating a little bit more over time. And as your body's breaking down body fat stores as energy, because there's less of that sugar in there from the carbs, you're going to notice that you actually get to a threshold where you feel pretty comfortable. You feel like this is enough protein for me. I feel good. I'm getting great workouts. I'm fueling new muscle growth. And in addition, I'm breaking fat down. And again, one more thing is you're going to have so much less water stored in your abdomen, midsection, typically where that water weight is carried, right? So now that we've determined, okay, we have our protein down, we have, our carbohydrates limited, what can we do when it comes to choosing the carbohydrate sources that we want to eat? Because again, ideally, you want to be able to enjoy all foods. It's just preferring one or the other, right? So we're doing our best to stay away from the processed protein. Again, it's not that it's the worst thing in the world, but there's going to be that sugar in there that's going to oftentimes make you want to overeat, right? Now that we've gotten that down pat, we can start to look at carb sources that are best. So the carbohydrate sources that are going to, be better options than the sugar is they're all going to break down the sugar, but if you can go towards more of these dark starches, sweet potato, your whole wheat pasta, your brown rice, these dark starches, the colored starches, purple, brown, etc., they are going to give you much more of that stable balance when it comes to blood sugar that the white starches don't. So you can substitute these into your nutrition paired with the protein, and you're going to realize that you feel really good afterwards and you have nice stable energy. See you guys in day 3.